Hi everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Of course, this is Akram Mahabir with The House. We're going to be reviewing, of course, some professional wrestling here today in the wide world of televised wrestling still going on here. Last time I was doing all of the major shows, Monday Night Raw, NXT, and AEW Dynamite. Today we're just going to focus on Raw. Hopefully these episodes can be shorter and shorter. I know it's a lot to listen to a guy ramble about wrestling for an hour, but let's get right into this episode of Monday Night Raw, emanating from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. We are in attendance of a couple of dozen, actually. We have about 20 of the NXT trainees in attendance here. A lot of people we've never really seen on WWE programming, but overall this is a really great thing because we're actually getting some energy into the broadcast and we're able to get at least some reactions, even if they're a bit canned and inauthentic, from the crowd. The opening segment here is another episode of the KO Show. Kevin Owens, of course, he's back on the main roster as of last week. We have a whole slew of people come out. First Charlotte, then Natty, then Nia Jax, and then I believe Asuka. And again, people are interrupting Kevin. He's playing to the crowd, trying to give us a quick preview of how a lot of these reactions are going to be coming from this type of audience. And in my opinion, it's the first big problem with the show. I thought while everything felt better because there was more life, I was always very aware of the idea that these people in the crowd were trainees. They're hired by WWE. They're on the payroll. So while I don't expect them to boo, they're almost queued up to every single cheering and laughing segment. Sometimes it's a laugh, sometimes it's a boo, sometimes it's a cheer, and then sometimes it's clapping and program chanting. And what I thought about the inauthenticity of it wasn't that the people were bad at matching their cues and knowing when and where to do certain things. It was the idea that they're only doing it at these very particular cued points and they're not actually trying to add some sort of individuality to it. Nobody had a chant that was by themselves. Nobody had a weird jeer or funny comment. There was no life to it. Last week on AEW, we saw a lot more diversity in how people were chanting and cheering. We saw people have their own interactions individually with the members of the crowd, and that's because those wrestlers have those personalities on there. You saw Vicky Guerrero in the crowd at Double or Nothing. That's somebody we know, that's a face that we've actually seen before. That wasn't there for this episode of Raw, and it made the crowd a little more challenging to get behind and to feel comfortable with. It's almost like the opposite type of scenario that you want right now. You have this setting where there's no reaction, so instead of an authentic one, you now have what it could seem like a forced one. So for me, it made the show a little better, but it's still really bothering me. Overall, opening segment was pretty okay. I liked Natty in this segment. It was very obvious to me from this that we're going to go and get a title match from Nia Jax. So overall, I thought it was okay. Not particularly impressed with this. Next up, we're going to go right into the United States Championship match between Andrade and Apollo Crews. Really nice match here. Fast pace. Two guys that are very good in the ring. Uya Nation and El Sombra. Really liked a lot of the offense by Andrade. He had a really good way of making Uya look strong here. And I thought that Apollo Crews looked really good as well. The Angel Garza interview in the middle of this match was horrific. It actually ruined what should have been a great match for Apollo Crews, considering this is his first championship in the WWE, the United States Championship. A great title, something with a lot of lineage, and you're spoiling this title change with this weird description from Angel Garza of how wrestling is like making love to a beautiful woman, and from the way he makes it sound, it's like having sex in a car on prom night when we're all sweaty and nasty. It's just the worst thing in the middle of this what is supposed to be a really important title match. Apollo Crews hits his military press, 2 standing moonsaults, he gets the pin, and is now the new United States champion, his first championship in WWE. The post-match promo was pretty nice. It's generic, but it was really sweet. And then we get alternating shots between smiling Apollo Crews and Andrade throwing stuff and throwing a fit, which I thought looked pretty good. I liked this segment. This was good, and it's good to see Apollo get a championship. I think that they've been a bit soft and cold on him for a while, and I think it's because a lot of his promos come across really generic. He doesn't have that way of cutting his promos in the WWE that some other guys have, and I mean, I don't really get it because he's obviously in fantastic shape. He's got great pecs, really good biceps. He's the type of muscular guy that you would find in WWE. I have no idea why they haven't pushed him since this. Overall, yeah, I thought this was a pretty good segment. I thought that Apollo Crews looked really, really good in this. It's about time for him to get his first championship in WWE. I was expecting him to be more of a contender for the Cruiserweight title, if anything, or maybe somebody in the Intercontinental title picture when it was still on Raw, but this is a good choice here. I think that they should try to push this for a few months, see if he gets a lot of reaction from people. I think that any title push right now is really, really smart because you can create a lot of unique support around somebody who's not going to have live crowds to turn on them or have a poor reaction. And maybe these program crowds are really good for that because Apollo got a really good reception after his championship win, which shouldn't be surprising because it's all NXT guys out there. It's all people who have worked the indies themselves or have been an athlete in some capacity. I'm sure that they can relate to seeing somebody that might be a peer of theirs doing well. So every championship change from now on should be well received, a lot of reaction. It should be very, very critical to getting those guys over. Next up, we get a small promo for Street Profits and Viking Raiders playing some golf. They're going to be golfing. I love these segments so much, and I like the idea that they're now using them as cutaways to chop up in between the show. I thought last week was so dull that it didn't make a huge difference, but it ended up being one of the only things I can really remember from all the way back then and now. So this should be a lot of fun. Next up, we have Seth Rollins cutting a promo. It's more Messiah stuff, talking about Rey Mysterio's sacrifice, talking about Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo, who he's going to be facing off tonight. It's the same stuff we've been hearing week after week. I thought that his work tonight was better. I think this is the best Messiah work he's done in a while, but overall, this gimmick's still kind of sour on me. I'm not really feeling a lot of this stuff right now, but the promo's good to set us up to the tag match later. It's gonna be Austin Theory and Murphy versus Humberto Carrillo and Aleister Black. Then we get a quick Charlotte Flair promo. She doesn't say too much here. She's talking about how she's the best. She's a Flair. She's already a champion. She's coming after Asuka's championship. Then we get a quick snippet of Asuka coming into the frame. She's dancing with the belt. She's doing her little thing. She stops. She looks straight at Charlotte. She says, "Red is not your color," and then waltzes away. I love this character so much. She pulls off cute stuff like this all the time. 10 out of 10. Then we have the Iconics. The Iconics had an excellent segment here. It's a very beautiful little segment where they're apologizing to each other. They're so beat up after what happened last week. Peyton is brave enough to be the person to say something first. She's saying, "I'm so sorry for getting us disqualified. This was so wrong of me. I can't believe I even did that. I've betrayed you." And then Billy says, "No, but I should be sorry. I slapped you. And that's not something you should do to a friend." And then they hug. They hug. Of course, Billy and Peyton both have to comment on how their whole dispute is just a product of being handed trash while the office's favorite blonde gets all the title opportunities. And then that prompts Alexa and Nikki Cross to come right out. They're not going to let them talk all that shit. Alexa cuts a quick line or two. She's tossing it over to Nikki. And for some reason, Billy thinks it's all right to cut Nikki off. She says, "Oh, you shut up. Shut up. I don't want to hear anything out of you. You're not there to talk. You're there just to look crazy." And then we get an impassioned promo from Nikki. We don't really get to hear Nikki talk for more than 1 or 2 lines per week anyway. She's consistently matching the energy of Alexa. It's not that she's off to the side, and she gets good ring time too because, like I said before, I think she's an excellent worker. She's definitely one of the most underrated people in WWE. She gets a little time here for her own to actually step into the limelight. She's talking about how she's worked her ass off since she's been in NXT, where you guys were. I was always the one you guys got to pick on for being crazy, but Alexa gave me the strength to be a champion, and now 2-time Raw Women's Tag Team Champion. And then, of course, I now have the strength to be a friend to somebody like Alexa, and I'd like to think that I taught her some things about friendship too. It's a impassioned promo, it's quick, it's beautiful. It just says a lot of really nice things about Nikki's character and that people should be taking her quite seriously. I think this feud makes a lot of sense because you get excellent segments like these. If these teams come out and talk, this is going to go really well. These teams need the time to really let this boil over. I don't think Backlash should be the last match for the championship. This should go right into SummerSlam. These girls are going to do some really great work if they give them the time and energy to let this develop. Obviously, Iconics aren't due for a breakup anytime soon, but I also hope that Nikki and Alexa aren't either, because they're doing some career work right now as a tag. Next up, we have MVP backstage. He's in the middle of a phone call. Lana comes up to him. She wants to start a confrontation. He's not having it. It's kind of whatever. It's a transition into us talking more about Lana being involved in the MVP Bobby Lashley storyline. Then we move into MVP's VIP lounge with special guest Drew McIntyre. Drew immediately comes into the place and tears it apart. He wants to know where Bobby is. He says this is obviously a big setup. Overall, it's a good babyface promo for Drew McIntyre. Obviously, MVP is eventually going to bring out Bobby. Bobby comes out. There's a big tussle. Drew claymores MVP. Bobby pulls MVP out of the ring and they go running. This is kind of a nothing segment, just something to advance our main event championship feud. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Bobby Lashley being the next challenger. I definitely would have liked Drew to go over on somebody who has more around them, somebody who has more attention, someone who's a little more established in the main event scene or is being taken seriously by fans. I thought that them trying to maybe pair him up with Otis or somebody who is a face that is sensible for a title match right now would have been good. Or even someone like Kevin Owens, or continuing the Seth Rollins feud. I just didn't see the need to shift him to somebody else and do this whole thing with Bobby. MVP is good at managing Bobby because you do get segments like this where even though the VIP lounge isn't particularly entertaining, he's carrying the segment along, but I'm just kind of over this. Not very much entertained by the VIP lounge this week. Next up, we have Angel Garza versus Kevin Owens. I thought this was a good match. Kevin comes out. Garza runs in on him by chop blocking him. Garza works this leg the whole match. Kevin tries to make his comebacks, but he's having a lot of trouble getting his footing back. Zelina Vega runs some interference. Garza hits the wing clipper. He gets the pin. He wins the match. Obviously, they're still trying to keep the stable of Zelina Vega strong. We come back from the break to see the Street Profits and Viking Raiders starting their game of golf. The Viking Raiders have bought the meats with Ivar with a bunch of turkey legs. The Vikings don't seem to know how golf works, and the Street Profits are amazing at golf. They're balling out. The Viking Raiders are so bad, in fact, that they get kicked off the course after causing a huge divot and hitting a guy in the face, but they also break a golf cart as well. Not a great day at the links for the Viking Raiders. They then go to a mini golf course where they have a lot of fun there, and the Street Profits are still much, much better. And we have the segment end with Ivar trying to fight an alligator that snuck up on the course. Overall, this was a fun segment. I appreciate what they're trying to do here with this Who's Better Than Who series, And it's good use of their time because even if they're not wrestling, the Viking Raiders and Street Profits are getting featured. And those are two tags with a lot of talent and a lot of charisma, a lot of tools that they should be using in creative settings like that. Next up, Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo versus Austin Theory and Buddy Murphy. Not a whole lot going on here. It's a pretty good match overall. It's a lot of Buddy and Austin getting the heel heat. Post-match is really the story here. Seth tries to poke Humberto's eye out by having Austin Theory and Buddy Murphy hold him down. Aleister grabs a chair. He's running over to try and save his tag partner, his fellow admirer of Rey Mysterio. He tells him to stop. He tells him to back off. If he tries to save Humberto, he's going to have his eye poked out. And if the two of them can't get it through their head, if they continue going after him, then Rey Mysterio's sacrifice is going to be all for naught. This promo was pretty decent. I liked it. It was definitely some of the energy that we want to see out of Seth most of the time. I'm sad that this is coming at the cost of what feels like a pretty flat program and not a really effective use of Seth's time if this is leading up to a match with Rey Mysterio, a guy who's well into his 40s. He's not in the best shape of his life. He's not going to be able to move and go with someone of Seth's current fitness and caliber, and this could be a hazardous environment for Rey. We know Seth's kind of rough in the ring, and if he's not up to the task physically, then this might not be the match that everyone's looking for. Good segment, but I'm not really liking what this is building to. Seth versus Rey Mysterio isn't something people would really need to see right now. Then we get Edge. Awesome promo here. He's backstage. They're keeping him in this nice, silent and tranquil state where he's brooding in the background somewhere. He is super rad here. He is amazing here. Really cold, calculated promo. You can tell that even if this was pre-written, his inflections, everything he's bringing to this is absolutely his own. He says, "I've been retired for 3,212 days, in which time you have had 1,126 matches. I did the research." He says he saw his appearance in The Last Ride, and he finally understands what The Undertaker meant by knowing when it's time to hang up the boots and retire. Such a shame that this match is getting billed as the greatest wrestling match of all time, or the greatest wrestling match ever, because under normal circumstances, this would absolutely exceed all expectation. Edge is cutting some career best work. He's back in action, and this promo on all notes absolutely hit it out of the park. I'm still really infuriated by the idea that this is getting booked as the greatest wrestling match ever. It's such a stupid thing to say about any match, really, because you're never going to live up to that expectation. The greatest wrestling match ever is like saying that something's the greatest, any unit of a particular sport, like the greatest fight, the greatest boxer, the greatest champion. There are so many things that are subjective about those things that it's hard to pin something as the greatest. So even though this is an amazing promo by Edge, and even though so much of this build has been good, it's still such a shame to see that the booking is so haphazard and misguided here. Nothing can be the best match ever. Nothing can be the greatest something ever, especially not out of the mouth of the booker. It just feels like it's the wrong type of build for what's supposed to be a deeply personal and deeply fiery match, is what we can see from what Edge and Orton have both been putting down. We then go to commercial break. We come back to see the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits. They come back into the arena. They're talking about, oh, can't believe all that hype with our golf match. Guess we're still the best, though. And then the Viking Raiders are like, we let you win. And the Street Profits are like, oh, no, we didn't. What are you talking about? This and that. It's just a bunch of jibber-jabber to lead up to Bobby Lashley and MVP coming in. They challenge the Street Profits' resolve, being clowns. MVP loves calling people clowns. Lana's a clown. Bobby was a clown. R-Truth is a clown. The Street Profits are clowns. Presumably the Viking Raiders are also clowns. They challenge the Street Profits to a match. They accept the match. that's our main event for the night. Quick segment, not a lot to really analyze here. It set up the match perfectly, and we do get a clear picture of how the rest of the show is going to be staggered out. Next up, Charlotte versus Natalya versus Nia Jax for the number one contender spot for the Raw Women's Championship. This is a triple threat match, so no DQ. It's a lot of fun. Hard-hitting match, but the best part is Asuka's reaction. We get not only commentary at ringside from our new Raw Women's Champion, but we get a whole slew of ranting and raving and cheering and yelling and screaming and loud facial expressions. Like, if you had the sound off while you were watching this, you could still hear the mom screams coming out of Asuka, and it's some of the loudest stuff you've ever heard. It's amazing. So many reactions. Hopefully I have some right here for all of you. We have a big Tower of Doom spot in the actual match. It takes them a while to set up, but they get over pretty good. Huge double power bomb through the table by Charlotte and Natalya, and we get a huge reaction from Asuka there. Nia Jax gets the pin at the end of all this after she hits a Samoan drop on Natalya to become the number one contender. Charlotte can't be involved in this finish because she's already NXT champion, and they're not going to have her get pinned by someone who's going to lose that title match anyway. Asuka and Nia have a stare down, and we go backstage. This match was great. This whole segment was probably the highlight of the show. It accomplished a lot of things while using things that are a strength in WWE programming right now. They obviously have a lot of belief in using Charlotte. Natalya's been pretty good in the ring. Like I said last week, Nia's been getting better. And Asuka's always a treat. You have to know that Asuka's probably the MVP of the entire COVID Monday night experience. She has had a lot of the best matches, so much good commentary, so many good backstage segments, and her character's been so consistent as well. And now, of course, she is Miss Money in the Bank, promoted to Miss Raw Women's Champion. We go backstage to Drew for a bit. He says he forgot something backstage, and he might not find it until after our main event tonight. And we go to break. We come back from break to see R-Truth cutting a promo about the 24/7 championship. It looks like R-Truth is in his bedroom using his laptop webcam. It's the grittiest, grainiest looking thing I've seen on WWE television thus far in relation to people trying to communicate through video calls. The only thing that I think is better is when we saw William Regal this past Wednesday from his bedroom or corner closet talking to Adam Cole, who was in his gamer chair. We then hear from Rob Gronkowski, who cuts a not that great promo. He says that he can see truth coming from a mile away because he can see backwards in his sunglasses. Not sure what that means. I presume he's saying he has eyes on the back of his head. There's something to that effect. The promo isn't great. This whole segment is kind of whatever. I doubt that R-Truth is going to get a real one-on-one with Rob Gronkowski. I don't know what the terms are for that deal. I know that after he hosted WrestleMania, there wasn't any clear plan for him, but this seems like the sensible thing to do with a guy like Rob. It's not the best time for him to be working anybody who's seriously holding your show together, like a Kevin Owens or anybody even near that stature. But R-Truth is a funny character, and people really like seeing him. And the 24/7 title is R-Truth's title. You could also say it was Drake Maverick's title, but he obviously has a lot bigger fish to fry these days. So this is okay. I like it, but like I said, the promo by Rob Gronkowski isn't all that great. We then cut to MVP and Lashley backstage. He's getting ready for the match. Then we see remote Ric Flair coming to us live from some room in his house. Behind him, we see a wonderful poster of the Nature Boy and the Queen of WWE, Charlotte Flair, posing together. I just like that for that alone. The whole segment was made just by seeing that picture in the background. He's hyping up the greatest wrestling match ever. Ever. This is the greatest wrestling. Ric Flair is telling us this is the greatest wrestling match ever. He's picking Randy Orton. That's his guy from all the days in Evolution. That's who his pick is. That's the whole point of the promo. It's just more hype for this greatest wrestling match ever. And then we get another Liv Morgan promo. Now, these Liv Morgan promos haven't been terrible. They're not a lot to go on. She's talking about believing in herself, her motivations. She wants to come back, be better. I'm happy for her. She's cutting good babyface stuff. I'm feeling it. But then we don't see her for the rest of the show, and I'm wondering why. I guess it's good that we're getting the promos, but I don't know what else that we're getting to work on. And they're not long video packages either with a high production value. It's her sitting, not explaining why she's not on the show and not with us, but just explaining her motivation. So it just feels like, oh, that's her segment now. It's just to talk and motivate us, or to talk and make us feel inspired by her. Not a lot going on there. I'm not a fan of these. It's not communicating what it probably should be to me, which is making me feel really inspired and wanting to root for her and wanting to see her more. I'm wondering why I'm not seeing her in matches. I'm wondering why I'm not seeing her doing the same thing or coming out and trying to talk to people and then engaging people. It's just like this weird private thing. It's that weird thing with Damian Priest that they were doing last week, where he's just alone and he's sitting and talking about nothing to nobody. Now we move on to our main event. The Street Profits versus MVP and Bobby Lashley. Good match overall. Montez and Dawkins are doing great work here. Bobby and MVP both look pretty good. Bobby looks pretty good here. He was carrying Montez around the ring pretty well. Like, he looked strong, stable, lift on that. Bobby's in some of the greatest shape of his life, and I believe he's 44 years old, which is insane to think that he was able to stay in wrestling shape. He had a little run as an MMA fighter, and now he's back in the WWE, still being able to work week in, week out. Dawkins almost drops MVP on his head. MVP didn't get up all the way for a single leg takedown. He almost landed right on his neck. We then move to the finish. Lashley puts forward in a full Nelson. He gets the tap, then he doesn't let go, and the Street Profits get a DQ finish. McIntyre comes out to the ring for the save. Bobby and him brawl a bit. John Cohen can't break it up. He calls for some people in the crowd to come out, and they now break the social distancing rules to help break up this fight, even though you could have had security or other superstars that were on the show come out. I don't know why you had to pull NXT superstars surrounded by people who are competing, because they're supposed to be social distancing, through the barricade. More trainees come out. It's a pull apart, and that's it. Fade to black. Overall, this was an okay show. It was definitely better than last week. And that's the end of the episode of Raw. Overall, I think this was an okay episode. I thought that the matches were okay. Promos, by and large, were really good. I thought the opening segment was kind of flat, but every other talking segment conveyed the right stuff. There were bits and pieces of this MVP Bobby Lashley Lana thing going on, and just don't have any patience for that. I think that the whole angle is kind of whatever, and that being put onto Drew to interact with right now isn't a strong choice to me. I thought that Asuka did a great job tonight. Kevin Owens did a good job. Angel Garza didn't look bad in his match. I thought the promo he had was pretty awful, though. Apollo Crews looked good. He was a big MVP. And then we also saw the Street Profits and Viking Raiders have a great night as well. I thought the audience addition was good. It's nice to have something to react off of, to react alongside, getting those verbal and physical cues, but I thought the audience sounded very forced today. I didn't think that this episode had a lot of individuality within the audience. They all seemed to move their reactions as one single unit. There wasn't any of that friction that we see in modern WWE now, with these audiences not wanting to support certain faces and really loving to support certain heels. I'll give the episode a 5.5 out of 10. The audience was a huge help, but it did not elevate the show to a point where I can feel comfortable. Even though this was a decent episode of Raw, I thought a lot of the stuff on the show was good or okay. and some of it was even great. The Street Profits Viking Raiders segment, really, really good, and I thought that the best match of the night was the women's triple threat. That's it for our show today. I thank all of you for watching. Have a great day. Make sure you like and share this video. Thank you.